Good morning, class. Unfortunately, I had to take my dog to the vet today because my original vet closed down because of COVID. So I had to make an emergency appointment, and this was the only time to get my dog to the vet. So I apologize for missing class today. But these are our notes. I was just going to give you a video of the guided notes so you could fill in your guided notes as you watch my video. So remember, your guided notes are here, the demand guided notes. You want to open that up and have it open. I believe we left off at slide 8. So that's where I'm going to start. So fill this in as we go. And again, with a video, you can pause and then start it up again. So you can go at your own pace, all right? So just have these done for Friday. I'm also outside because my house was a little loud, so I didn't want it to be too loud while I was doing these notes. All right, so I'm going to open up the notes. And this is where we left off. We're on slide 8. We are talking about the topic of demand. And this is where we had left off, the demand curve. So what the demand curve was, it's a graphic representation of a demand schedule. And we had talked about demand schedule our last class or 2 classes ago about pizza and the different prices and how much pizza people would buy at different prices. So here we have 2 different demand curves. One, the market demand, how much the market will demand, and then a personal demand curve. So you're going to be working a lot with demand curves in the next couple of classes starting on Friday. So we want to make sure you get these notes done because they will definitely help you out. All right, so I'm going to move on. I am actually going to move all the way down to slide, for me, my next slide. For you might be a different number. It says shifts in the demand curve. So we're going to talk about what makes a demand curve move to the right or to the left. Okay? So these are some important things we want to know. So again, fill this in on your guided notes as we go through. All right. So changes in demand are going to cause a shift. All right. So other factors other than price change, they make the demand curve, and you can see some examples there. It could either move to the left or to the right, and certain things will cause that to happen. So that's what we are going to talk about. Again, you can pause if you need to fill this in. All right, let's go to our next slide. So what's going to change our demand? All right, so we have 2 types of goods, and goods are things people buy or use. So first thing we have what's called normal goods. These are goods consumer demand more of when income increases, and it should say goods right here. I'm not sure why it doesn't. Goods consumer demands more of when their income increases. So most goods are normal. All right. So you're starting to make some more money at your job, and there's that nice car that you've always wanted, and you're making a lot of money. So you want to go and get that nice car. All right. That would be a normal good. All right. The demand increases for these types of products when people are making more money. Okay. So these are called normal goods. Then we have something called inferior goods. These are goods consumer demands more of when their income decreases. So think of stuff that's not name brand, or if you're going to save some money and you don't want to buy that expensive stuff because you're not making a lot of money, so you'll buy a substitute product. All right. So these are your inferior goods. All right. So we had 2 types there. We had normal goods and inferior goods. So what I want you to know, when we have an increase in income, most likely that demand curve is going to shift to the right. All right. There's an increase in demand. All right. We have more money to spend, and we're going to spend it. If there's a decrease in income, there's going to be a shift to the left. All right. The opposite way. And that's going to show a decrease in demand. Also down here at the bottom, these are type of inferior goods like I was talking about, like bologna sandwiches. Some of us don't like bologna, but we have to substitute bologna if we don't have enough money to buy that steak and lobster. Used furniture. All right. We're not making enough money, so we can't buy the new furniture. We have to buy used furniture, used clothing, same concept. All right. Those are inferior goods. All right. Let's move on. Again, pause if you need to. All right. So some things that also, this is another thing that would cause your demand to change, a shift in your demand, are your expectations. All right. So if you expect higher prices in the future, your immediate demand is going to increase. So say gasoline is going to go up to $5 a gallon, and right now it's only $2.09. You're going to want to get your gas now because you don't want to pay $5. All right. So the same thing is vice versa up there. So it's just the opposite. So you expect lower prices later on. Your demand at this time would shift to the left. It would go down because you're waiting to get those lower prices. All right. So how we expect things as consumers dictates where our demand curve will shift. Okay. Also, our population determines our demand. All right. So as population or market size increases, so does demand. All right. So if they're going out to a big market where there's a lot of people, there's probably going to be a bigger demand for that product. All right. And I said the word market size. What market size means, it's the consumers plus producers. It's the people buying the products plus the people making the products. A couple of years ago, I don't know if you're in on that craze, the fidget spinners. That became such a big craze. The demand increased so much for fidget spinners. They were selling those for prices that are outrageous. Nowadays, I don't even think I even hear anybody even say the word fidget spinner anymore because the craze is over. All right. But back then, the population, the market size increased so much and increased the demand. It shifted demand for fidget spinners to the right. Okay. So population also changes our demand. Something else that also changes the demand of a product would be consumer taste and advertising. So trends always change from Air Jordans, Adidas, Nike. Champion became big within the last couple of years. You asked me 10 years ago if anybody was wearing Champion, I would say no. Or if anybody was, nobody really cared about it. But the trend changed and everybody was wearing Champion. Academics, not sure what that was. Another teacher put that on there. K-Swiss, Polo. All right. So some of these products, when they're trendy and consumers' tastes change, or if there's good advertising seen on TV, their demand curves will either shift to the right if people are looking for them, or they'll shift to the left and say, hey, I don't like this stuff anymore. So advertising can make or break a company. All right. So if you have good advertising, it usually helps out your company. But if it's bad advertising, it could hurt your company. So I always like the insurance companies. You always see these commercials for insurance companies, and the little songs they make, slogans for them, always stick in your head. Like Liberty Mutual, that's always in my head. The Limo Emu. I always catch myself singing that, or Nationwide is on your side. Sorry, I'll stop with that right now. But those are advertising, all right? Getting people to remember their products and buy their products and shift their demand for their products to the right. All right, let's keep going. Okay, slide 16 for me. All right, so prices of related goods also affects the demand. So the demand curve of one good can be affected by changes in demand of another. And this is what I mean. So we can have what's called complements. Complements are two goods bought and used together. So if one good is always bought with the other good, their demand curves will go the same direction. If one goes to the right, the other one will go to the right. If the other product, if it goes to the left, the other one will go to the left. They complement each other. All right. People use them together. Then we also have what's called substitutes. These are goods used in place of one another. All right. So if one product is going up in price, people are probably going to shift to the other product because it's cheaper. All right. They could substitute for it. This happens a lot with pharmaceuticals, with different types of drugs. You could get stuff cheaper at the pharmacy if it's a substitute than the actual thing. So we would call these substitutes, all right, within the pharmaceuticals. And there's many other examples of that too, okay? So let's keep moving. We're going to move to our next topic. Again, I apologize if I'm going through this fast. I want to try to get to all the notes here today in class. Next part of demand is called elasticity of demand. And this is a tough concept to understand, and we'll work through this. You won't have to know this right away on Friday. We'll be working through this the next couple of classes. All right, so what elasticity of demand means. Elasticity of demand. It's a measure of how consumers react to changes in price. All right. So our consumers going to say, whoa, that's too much. I'm going to stop buying that. Or going to say, oh, it's too much, but I need it and I'm still going to buy it. All right. So we have what's elastic and elastic. So inelastic is demand that is not responsive to price change. You're going to keep buying it despite price. All right. So think about this pandemic we've been having. All right. Toilet paper, paper towels. No matter how much they're raising the prices on those, especially at the beginning of the pandemic, we were buying it. All right. Because we needed it. All right. So that would be example of inelastic. All right. No matter what the price was, we are still going to buy it. Elastic, on the other hand, demand is responsive to change. So you'll buy much less if the price increases. So that could be maybe our technology, could be anything that you really don't need, but if the price raises, you won't buy it anymore. But if the price is low enough, you'll still say, hey, I want to keep that. Okay. So that's an example of elastic. So let's see how we actually could figure this out. And don't worry, we're not going to do a lot of this in class. I got the equations here. We'll come back to this and do a lot of examples in class, all right? So calculating elasticity. And again, I don't want to stay long on this slide. And I'm not going to read it at all. I just want you to pause right now. If there's anything you need to fill in on your guided notes, please do so, okay? Because I want to talk to you in person on this. Okay, you should have unpaused, and we are going on to the next slide. So when we do our calculations, if we get a number that's greater than 1, that means there's an elastic demand for it. All right, no matter what, we are going to buy that product no matter what the price is. If it's less than 1, it would be inelastic. All right, if they try to raise the prices, we're going to say, nope, we are not going to purchase that anymore because we just don't need it. And then we have unitary demand that's equal to 1. So raise, lower, it always stays the same. All right, that's called unitary, and we'll talk more about that. All right, almost to the end here. All right, next slide. These are some examples of some curves, demand curves. And again, we'll talk more about this. I just want you to fill this in on your guide notes if you have to. So you can see there's an example of elastic demand. It's more horizontal, the actual curve. And then inelastic demand is more vertical. Okay. And we'll talk exactly what's happening there in class. I don't think you'll get much out of this video from me telling you. We'll talk more about that in class. So, what are some things that are elastic or cause elastic demand? Some things that will cause an elastic demand, there's a large number of substitutes. Number 2, there's a large portion of the consumer's income goes towards it. And number 3, it is a luxury. All right, those factors would cause an elastic demand. Because remember, if I go back here, elastic is demand is responsive to change. You'll buy much less of it if the price changes, all right? So if I go back here, So a luxury item, you don't need it, all right? If the price goes up a lot, you don't have to keep buying it because you don't need it, all right? Or they raise the prices, I could go get something else. A substitute looks the same, acts the same, and I could still pay less, all right? And large portion of the consumer's income, all right, if I'm paying a lot of money for something, the price raises, I'm probably not going to stick with it because it costs me too much, all right? So these are factors that cause elastic demand. Now, what factors cause inelastic demand? Some factors that cause inelastic demand, this is where if they raise the price that we really don't move, we still need it. There could be no substitutes. There's only the one product out there. It's a small portion of your income, so it doesn't take up all your money, and it's a necessity, like I said. And during this pandemic, we are talking about toilet paper, paper towels, necessities. Don't take up our whole income, and pretty much there's no substitutes out there. There's a lot of different brands, and they're all charging the same price, so that would cause inelastic demand for that product, okay? Last thing we're going to talk about here in the notes, total revenue And we'll talk a lot more about total revenue, like I said, in a later class. But total revenue is the total income of a business. It's the price of each good a company sells multiplied by the number of goods sold. So if I have my iPhone or whatever phones you guys have, iPhones, Androids, or whatever type of phones you have, you would take the number that you sold, so Apple sold, times the price they sold it at. All right. So if they only sold 5 iPhones for $1,000 a piece, their total revenue would be $5,000. All right. Total revenue does not reflect the cost of their business, though. And what I mean by that, so if they sold 5 phones for $1,000 a piece, that's $5,000. But if it cost them $4,000 to make those phones, they would only make $1,000. Okay. So right now we're just talking about total revenue. So why was I talking about that? It's just with elasticity, and we'll talk more about that. So if there's an elastic demand for a product, when prices go down, total revenue will probably go up because people will be buying it. If prices go up, total revenue will go down because consumers will say, hey, I'm not going to pay that price. If a product's inelastic, if the prices go down, total revenue usually goes down also because you're not gaining or losing anything. But if they raise prices, total revenue will go up because you will keep on buying that product. Okay, so again, we have elastic and inelastic demand. And again, if you need to pause, please be pausing to fill in your guided notes. And our last slide is just what I went over with elasticity and the revenue. You can see what's happening with those arrows pretty much from the last slide. So again, please fill in your guided notes. Tomorrow in class, we'll be working on demand curves and how to draw those and what's happening with a demand curve. And if you have questions, please email me or put comments in Google Classroom, and I will get back to you because I'm only missing this class in the morning. So have a great Thursday, everybody, and we will see you on Friday.